So, welcome to Kitchen Table Talk, a Break the Stigma Inc. podcast, where real, unfiltered conversations about first responder mental health and wellness happen. I'm Michael Long, firefighter, paramedic, founder of Break the Stigma Inc. This show is a place for all of us as firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, police officers, dispatchers, and other medical professionals to pull up a chair, share stories, and talk about the parts of the job most people don't see. Here we laugh, we reflect, we learn, and we remind each other that it is okay to not be okay, because mental health is just as vital as physical health, and together we can break the stigma. So grab a cup, take a seat, and join us at the table. And welcome to Kitchen Table Talk. So, like I said, I'm Michael Long. As we move forward, we'll do some better introductions. This is our first episode of this podcast. We're very excited to be here today. As our first one, we're just going to do a introductory of kind of who we are, what we do, and moving forward, what we'll be doing with the podcast. We'll touch on a few mental health topics, some physical health, and then just have some general conversation. Probably all those conversations you guys are having in the firehouse or in the police station or the ambulance base. And we're going to do it live for everyone to hear. So, to start, I will introduce my co-host, Nick Robben, and I'll let him take it from here.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Nick Robben. I've worked with Mike Long for about the last 8 years, and we've just developed an incredible relationship together and have very much the same views on mental health and how to bring it to be meaningful within the firehouse. I feel like a lot of times things get thrown around. There's so much information out there right now about mental health, but we're not doing a good job of kind of dicing it up and figuring out, how to eat that elephant one bite at a time. So a little background on me. I've been in fire and EMS for 20 years. I'm currently serving as a lieutenant, which in our area is a junior officer. It's the first step into being an officer, and above that would be captain. And in addition, I'm a shop steward for our department, and what that means throughout the rest of the nation, I think sometimes it's called a union president, but I am the union leader for our department of firefighters and paramedics. So a lot of times I am the end of the line for somebody's problem before it gets too big. And we'll talk about boundaries, I'm sure, later. I don't have boundaries when it comes to the men and women that I work with. And I know what you're thinking. I probably should. But if it gets to the point where they're calling me for help or something that they need in the workplace or outside the workplace, I have to be there for them. And, just within the last year of doing it, it's come up. And I feel like we've come to some really meaningful solutions. Outside of work, I'm a father of 4 boys, youth baseball coach. So I hope you like baseball references, because that's pretty much the main way I speak. But I do love being a coach, and I love taking what I learn as a coach and bringing it back to others in coaching them in their mental health as well. My wife was an ER nurse. She's still currently a nurse, but with a little less stress, working in a functional medicine clinic doing their IV therapy. But having a spouse that at one point in her life dealt with many of the same struggles first responders deal with has been huge in my own mental health. And I really enjoy having that part of my marriage to lean on. From there, I can't tell you, Mike and I probably talk once a week about mental health, and sometimes it's about each other. And he knows, and I know that my mental health isn't perfect. And I'm very aware of that because of years of looking around inside my own brain about some of the challenges I've faced. And I've been able to talk to Mike about that. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. While I've never had a crisis myself, I always want to be the voice of, it could have been me, but these are the steps I've taken to stay out of crisis. So, I'm not perfect. I don't have the answer for everything, but I can tell you what worked for me and help kind of coach you how to look inside your own mind. So that's kind of my introduction.
No, and you nailed a lot of topics that will come up, whether it be today or in future episodes. I think the basis behind this podcast is a lot of what you just said. Is we all struggle, whether we're the guys on the fire truck, the guy in the ambulance, dispatch, police, and even like your wife that's been in the ER and things like that. Mental health is not it doesn't pick on individuals by any certain standard. It pretty much everyone's affected in some way, but we have the ability to share the information. And that's one thing with myself and Nick, that we're going to give you tips, tricks, skills, different things to do, different things we've done, different things we've learned, different things we learned that are not good. But also, we're not professionals. We're not perfect, but we do work with professionals. We do have those professionals that work with us on our resource network and things like that. But I love my clinicians. I think everybody should see one. But also at the same time, sometimes I get the best advice just having conversations with the guys at the kitchen table, meaning of the name, right? But that's the thing. We're all dealing with the same difficulties, just in a different manner, and we're all able to deal with them in different ways. Now, like Robin said, he managed to get himself through his mental health issues without going into crisis, and as he knows firsthand, because that close relationship we do have was stemmed from not just our work relationship, but also myself did not know how to handle my mental health. Went through my crisis. That's kind of where Break the Stigma based from. So, kind of a little bit into my story on how Break the Stigma was established and where we came from. So, myself, about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years now, had my own mental health crisis. Led to a lot of darkness, a lot of substance abuse, a lot of addiction, lots of rage. Lots of times where Robin just wanted to put me in the ring with another professional boxer to let him beat the shit out of me just to see if it would get some of that knocked back into sense. But in the end, I couldn't find the right resources. I couldn't get the right help. Everybody was trying to help me. I just didn't want to help myself because I just failed to admit that there was truly a problem. Led to, sadly, 2 suicide attempts. Happily, they were not successful. In the end, I was able to go to a facility out in Maryland that is specified for first responders, and they honestly saved my life. I owe them my life to this day. It gave me the ability to realize I'm not the only one out there suffering with the same issues. I'm not the first one to have mental health issues. I probably won't be the last, but I think that's kind of the basis of Break the Stigma. And what we started was that we kind of were the guinea pigs. I was a little bit of a guinea pig to realize that there are some systematic issues. So we're trying to fix those. And one of those systematic issues, especially, is the professionals that are out there that are culturally competent, but also in the firehouses. What kind of culture are we pursuing? What kind of culture do we have? What kind of traditions and culture are we pushing on these new guys that are coming in? For me and Nick, we're no spring chickens by any means anymore when it comes to these new guys. I think the new guy we just hired is probably he's 11 years younger than me.
He's low 20s, and he's actually I can see it too with a lot of the students that we bring in now. And I always think of myself as a big kid. Like, I never see myself as older than about 25. And I guess one of the things I'm struggling with now is I just turned 40, and I'm still hanging out with younger guys in the firehouse and outside of work, and they look at me like I'm an adult, and I always look around like, where? It always confuses me, but I am starting to see that generation gap with some of the younger guys. But I love it. I love their energy and their enthusiasm, and that when we go talk to the academy classes, man, that first one we did was off the cuff, like 2.5 hours, and it's just because Mike and I both care that much about getting this right for those guys moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is, not only do we want to save and help the guys that have been doing this, when I do my educational series, one of the first questions I ask to all the people in the room is, how many years of service do you have? And I'll get anywhere from, oh, this is my first job, I've been doing it for 2 months, to anywhere from, I've been doing it for 30 years, I'm retiring next year. And I'll tell you right now, when I have those conversations, the perspective and the answers and the way people react to what I'm saying is completely different based on if you've been doing this 6 months or 30 years. And that's a huge thing with that culture and that tradition. We got to do better for ourselves, but we also got to do better for this next generation coming in, by having these conversations, doing things like this where we're opening up the conversation. If you would have told me 5, 6, 7 years ago that there'd be a podcast out there of a bunch of firemen talking about their feelings, I would have laughed, and it would have never even crossed my mind to take a listen to it. But I'm out there now listening to podcasts about mental health on a regular basis. And I think, and I can't, I can probably speak for most of our department. The amount of mental health conversations we have is tenfold of what it was years ago. That's almost like a forefront thought now versus a reaction, and that's kind of the direction we're going with everything.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's not just in a peer support group and like the title of this podcast, The Kitchen Table. You can go into any firehouse in America and probably give them, the U.S. national budget, and 5 firemen will figure it out. The kitchen table of firehouses in America has solved every single world problem. And then we got up to do the dishes and just never finished the job.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that mental health has made its way to the kitchen table, and that more guys are talking about their struggles. And sometimes it's calls, and a lot of times it's calls, especially around the kitchen table, but sometimes it's just talking to guys about their families. So I think what I'm starting to realize now is, as the older dad around the firehouse, I see guys with brand new kids, and they come in and they're like, I don't know what to do. The baby doesn't sleep. And yeah, I was like, well, I went through that. I went through that 4 times. Here's some things. But it's good that those guys are bringing up the fact, like, hey, my home life is, scrambled eggs. And when I come in here, uh, it may take me a minute to get going. And it's good to see that they're at least offering that, because for a long time, as we're about to talk about, the tougher guys, the older guys in the firehouse would say, get over it. You got a job to do. We got to get to work, type thing.
Yeah, definitely. That's why kind of touching on that. I love the academy presentation we did when you talked about the 100% rule. Everybody's got to be at 100%. And then if somebody's not at 100%, why? Why are you not at 100%? We're a team. We're not one guy running a shift. We're not one guy, whether you're a captain, a BC, or on the, backstepping on a truck or on an ambulance. We work as a team. And if somebody's struggling, we should know. And we've pushed that away for so long, where I know at the beginning of my career, man, you didn't talk about it. Like, if you were having issues, like, the firehouse was the place to escape your issues. But then guess what? You created new issues at the firehouse. You went back home and took those back to your house and just stacked them on top of those issues.
Yeah. 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 Mike's referring to a speech that I give about playmakers. And, when you show up to your firehouse on the day that you're needed, when it comes to exacting a rescue out of a burning building, you will have to be at 100%, mind and body. And so when we talk about playmakers, we talk about the starting lineup. And if you're the guy, you're the playmaker, you're that star shortstop. Here we go with the baseball analogies. If you're that star shortstop, me as your teammate or your coach, I'm counting on you to be a playmaker, and to put the work in to get to that spot. Now, because you have a fire department job, that means that you have put the work in to get that spot. And now I'm counting on you. But if you're hiding an injury, whether it's mental or physical, on the fire ground or on the baseball field or soccer pitch or, what have you, and it's slowing you down, or it's going to be a problem, uh, and your team doesn't know about it, how can we help you? And the other problem with the fire service is we haven't really structured anything for a mental health light duty. So we're not treating mental health like an injury. In my opinion, we should. It's no different than if a guy blows his knee out, we don't make him limp into work and work at 60% efficiency. So if your brain's not there, and we're like, well, man, you gotta show up and do that job. We should be treating mental health more like a physical injury. Um,
I think that's a lot of where that stigma comes from too. Is, I know for me, like, when I was going through my crisis and was really going downhill, I mean, you guys at the firehouse, you could see it from a mile away. I walked in
yeah,
a room and I was basically just looked dead inside. And I thought I was hiding it. I didn't want
you
to
look
tell
dead
you.
on the outside too.
Yeah, I was getting there.
Some of the
I was,
pictures, even in the pictures of that video that you just most recently did, um, it brought back a lot of memories of like, and I watched it from pretty far. For those of you who don't know, I didn't go deal with Mike until he came back, was really where we kind of bonded. And looking back at those pictures, we're talking about mental health that had ruined him so bad it was affecting his physical appearance and his physical health. And it's just absolutely wild to see those pictures and just think like, how did it get this far this fast?
Well, and that's the thing. It's that stigma too, is like it didn't get that far that fast. It was years in the making. But then once you break, and then it's fast. And that's kind of what you were touching on, was like hiding those mental health injuries. Is like, I know if I'm on a crew and my somebody on my crew comes up and says, "Man, I had a rough 4 day. Things were bad at home. I came in, I'm not rested. My brain's not there." That's like, I'm not gonna be like, "Oh man, you get out of here. You're not worth it." Like, no, it's gonna be like, "Hey, well, what can we do to get you through this? What can we do to get you back to 100%?" Is that, hey, maybe they want us. I'm a huge believer that the firehouse was a lot of what kept me stable. So I'm never one to say, hey, just because you're struggling, you can't come to the firehouse. But man, hey, maybe you're not an ambulance guy today. Maybe running 20 calls in an ambulance isn't for you today. Maybe trying to deal with
Yeah,
patients isn't your thing. You just want to run into burning buildings and get some anger out. That's perfect. Go force some doors. Like, that's where you belong today. But then where do you address it after the fact? But if these people aren't coming forward saying, "Hey man, I'm not at 100%," how do we know they're struggling? Then we stick them on an ambulance. They're on a short fuse. We stick them on an ambulance. They have a patient that's a little difficult, and all of a sudden they're getting rode up because they went off on a patient. They don't even know why they went off. How are we benefiting them by them, or how are they benefiting themselves? I mean, we look back and we're like, "Oh man, that guy's a dick. He yelled at that patient. Now he got rode up. Good for him." What's behind the scenes that we're not talking about? Most of the time, there's always something behind the scenes that's keeping us from being 100%.
right.
So, and that's it. And that's going into kind of our first topic of the day. It was one of those things, and going into that and talking about that is, like those common stressors in our jobs. And I like to look at mental health, especially in the first responders. We're very unique individuals. I don't think there's anyone in a firehouse that's not running around with some sort of a mental health disorder or mental wellness issue. Where, like mine, I'm riddled with wonderful ADHD, so my brain
Yeah,
doesn't work at the same patterns as other people, and that can be stressful at times. In a
that's gonna
firehouse,
be that's gonna be a future. I think I've been working on that one for a while, and I never knew why, but I've been working on basically an entire podcast about ADHD in the firehouse and overstimulation and what that looks like when we come home with it. And that's one thing in firehouse culture that I think we're starting to see, and it's kind of funny. You have younger guys coming to the fire service, and they're like, man, I'm really, I've been really successful my whole life. I got straight A's, and then we're like, well, how'd you get to, anyways? Uh,
wait, you're
but
smart. Why are you
yeah,
here?
yeah, what are you doing here? And that's because of paramedic school. And that's what's different about our region is we hire critical thinking paramedics, and then they get to a fire truck, and we're like, hey, turn that off. So, but a lot of people in your younger years, when you have a ADD or ADHD diagnosis, you can use it to multitask almost as a superpower. And not quite sure the exact age, but for some reason at 35 or so, that's when it kind of hit me. You can't multitask anymore. You can't even task because you've left so much stuff open in your brain at one single time, and you can't prioritize any of it. So, you see a lot of guys later struggle in their career, and you have to like go to them and be like, bro, you got it, man. Like you have it. You don't realize you have it. I've been watching you around the firehouse. Like, oh no, I don't. I never took medicine for it. It's like, should you have?
Yeah.
Or there's tons of guys that just in our department alone that were like, oh yeah, I took a Ritalin and Adderall as a kid. And it's like, all right, how's it going as an adult? They're like, not good.
Yeah.
So
No, I
again,
stopped taking it. And now all of a sudden I'm struggling. I don't know why.
yeah. So again, that awareness of what is going on inside of our brain, I think is one of the first steps. But that's a topic all in itself.
Oh, it is, and I wrote a paper on ADHD and neurodivergency for those wonderful big words for my psychology degree, and I actually talked about everybody looks at ADHD as this terrible thing that oh my god, you're never going to be successful in life, and it's like I know I can talk to people that have neurodivergency or ADHD or whatever their problems are. I hate calling them problems, but their issues are, and those guys come up with better ideas and solutions, and they usually come up with 6 or 7 of them. And we're over here trying to think in one box, and
Yeah.
they're in a different room drawing circles, and they're nailing it. And then we're trying to shut that down. But I mean, that's the thing is like we are coming into these professions with whatever neurodivergency, mental health, mental wellness, whatever. I know most, I can't say most, there is no wonderful stats and statistics and research out there. There's not a whole lot of it. And I don't really trust it, most of it, because I know if I went around the region and did mental health surveys, I wouldn't be honest on it. So I wouldn't expect anybody else to be. But
No, absolutely not.
I would say most of us walk in with some sort of trauma. I mean, if we go into, if you go into a career like this, I would imagine you didn't live a very stable life coming into it. Not many people are like, oh yeah, my life was great. I'm going to go run into burning buildings. That sounds fun. Oh, there's a chance I'm not going to get out. Even better. Yeah, no, the normal person doesn't go about it that way. So I think that's where we miss a lot, and we've missed a lot. Is a lot of these guys and gals that are coming in, they're coming in already at a 4, and we're just letting them cycle up to a 10 by adding on the work trauma, and we're just missing that. And that's where, like I said, those common stressors of the job, and then the common stressors at home, and like you brought up earlier, is that tough guy mentality and that tough guy culture, or the hey, how far can you bury this? I mean, I can't. I know I can't speak for everyone, but I'd say most people I know in the fire service are very much under that culture of, yeah, no, we don't talk about problems. You can bury those. Guess what? If you drink or do something else, they'll go away. You don't have to
Yeah.
deal with them for a while. And I think that's the culture we've lived under for so long, and we're now instilling that on these new generation coming in, and that's it's a disservice of us doing it to them. So again, that culture is something we need to definitely be looking at moving forward.
Yeah. In my early career, the celebration of alcohol on the 4 day that was peak fireman. And I think I even had a birthday shirt made. It was a quote from a captain I had at the time, and the quote was "Drink about it." And that's literally what we saw, for so long with that group was if you had a problem, you just drink about it. If you're hammered all 4 day, all those work problems seem to just disappear. You weren't facing them, you weren't dealing with them. You were pretty much just suppressing them down in your brain, and those will go away. And the problem is they come roaring back later because you didn't deal with them then, and you hit them underneath alcohol and substance abuse.
Yeah, and that's a big. I mean, alcohol was a huge problem in my crisis. Now, I've never been a huge drinker throughout my entire life, here and there, socially and things like that. And then once the pain of the mental health and mental wellness went down, it was like, oh man, drinking's great. But like you said, you drink it down and then it bubbles back up. And I'm still an avid, like I'll go to a bar with somebody while they have a drink. It doesn't bother me a bit. People deserve to drink. I think it does have its purposes. But I know for me, it was something that I had to look at and be like, yeah, this isn't for me. Now I'm a little over 2.5 years sober, and love every minute of it. Most days, I'll admit, there's difficult days, but again, there we have that cultural thing where we're pushing in and saying, putting it on these new guys is like, oh man, we had a rough shift. Let's go to the bar. Or oh, you're struggling with stuff. Well, just leave your wife and your kids at home, and we'll go get a drink. Then you don't got to deal with it. Again, we're just pushing those stigmas and those cultural things that are making the new generation suffer, and the ones that have been suffering, we're just prolonging it and prolonging it and prolonging it until hopefully it's not the case, but more and more people are hitting these crises. And it's kind of that double-edged sword too, is like as we talk about this more, I think it's becoming more light of how many people are truly struggling. um, and we're all really good at telling each other why we're messed up, but we're not really good
Yeah.
at talking about, like, what do we do about it. you know well, don't talk about it. go drink. I mean, that was always been our solutions, but now as this has become a major topic, it's more and more people are being open and honest, and we don't have solutions. We don't have answers. We haven't broke it down far enough.
Yeah, I think the other thing is a lot of times when we deal with our own mental health, when we start to scratch the surface or we start to turn and look inside at how we fix our own mental health, it's a daunting, daunting task, and it takes a ton of work and it takes a ton of discipline. Substance abuse and alcohol takes no discipline. I mean, it's readily available in every gas station. Most people have it at home. If you haven't, had a crisis and dumped it all out, you're still going to get more. It's just so readily available. So when it comes to figuring out, do I need to face my problems or do I just need to, have a couple beers? A couple beers turns into 12 beers, and then hard stuff comes out. But it's so easy to turn to suppression over, looking inwardly and dealing with stuff. And I think a lot of it, like I didn't know in my own mental health crisis, I didn't know how to look inwardly because I wasn't aware of it. And I was taking a walk. We just moved into a new house, and I was taking a walk, and I couldn't remember I had the last time I was happy. And as a young guy, I was all about the party. Um, and so I knew what happiness was. And I knew what it felt like. I didn't have like a dark life. And here I was, and I was like, I don't know the last time I was happy. And so I took that walk. I think I even turned my headphones off, and I just started to think about it. And I was like, well, let's see. I have a beautiful home. All of my kids are healthy. My wife's healthy. Um, you know, my family's healthy. Uh, I don't worry about too many bills. I have good job security. So does my wife. Um, I couldn't find a reason to not be happy, but I wasn't happy. So then I knew, like, okay, I think I'd have to double check. I think this is depression. And that's when it all started. I had put a name on this feeling that I had. So I'm not saying it was like a self-diagnosis, but something, if you're not happy and you don't know the last time you were happy, or the last time you felt good, or the last time that you felt strong, that's when you really got to start looking inside. Like, how did this happen? Or why did this happen? Or how did I get here? And right then you're going to realize you're at the bottom of the hole, and you got to start figuring out how to get out. So it's kind of like that self checklist. And, I still do it from time to time. And a lot of times, what I feel like is I've just let too many things kind of into my bubble or into my jar. When we do the jar analogy, I let too many things in there, and now there's just no room for happiness or those great feelings. And so that's when I have to do a self check of like, all right, what do I need to cut out? What do I need to take out of my jar or my bucket that's too full so that I can have room, for a little bit of happiness or room for me to just be me.
But I think that's what a lot of people struggle with too, is when you look at like taking care of your mental health. Everybody, if I see somebody struggling, I'm like, hey man, you need to, address your mental health. And they're immediately thinking, oh, straitjacket, hospital room. I'm going to see a counselor. I'm doing 8 hour sessions. I'm going to sit in an AA meeting. Whatever it is, it's always the extremes. We don't realize how easily our mental health can be put in check by just doing that inward look and then finding the things that, help us recover every day. Every day we add to that jar, we add to that bucket. No matter how great everybody thinks their life is or that you think your life is, we all have stress throughout the day, whether you notice it or not. And that's something I still struggle with even in, 2 years into recovery. It's something like I still catch myself falling off, and I got to do that inward look, like you said, and then see like, oh, what am I not doing to help myself here? I did it just last week. I was starting to go down an anger hole again, which was a real problem for me where I was snapping off pretty easy. And I realized, oh man, I wasn't doing my ice baths anymore. I wasn't reading at night like I used to, but I made myself so busy with everything I was doing that I started neglecting the things that were taking care of me, to take care of other things and other people. And I think that's something we all struggle with, especially in the first responder field. Those tones go off and you go on the ambulance or a fire truck. Do you think twice about figuring out how to fix the solution? Probably not. I mean, I know you don't. You're usually coming up with solutions before we even get there. I know I'm,
Yeah.
we're going to fix every problem you got, even what you called for, and then we'll probably fix some other things. We might even fix your refrigerator while we're there.
It was a furnace. We usually, it's usually like two smoke detectors and one furnace.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're all about finding all these solutions for other people. And then someone comes and says something to us, or we notice it ourselves, and we're like, no, we're not going to help ourselves. Well, we don't have time for that. We got to help all these other people, or we got to do it for them. But I think one of the things that was told to me when I was in Maryland was, this is your time to be selfish. And I couldn't
Yeah.
quite grasp that until I really understood what that person was telling me about being selfish. Is like, you got to be selfish to be selfless. You can't help other people if you can't even help yourself. What good are you if you can't even take care of yourself? How are you going to help anybody else if you can't even function? And that was something I think we all struggle with, is we're really good at being selfless, but we're not good at being selfish when it comes to our own health.
Yeah, I think the easiest, if you're new to mental health, or maybe you have a problem and you don't know where to start. I'll give you the easiest where to start you can do. You're going to leave your house with a nice pair of shoes on, comfortable clothes. You're going to set a timer on your watch for 45 minutes, and you're going to take off walking. No headphones, just you alone with your thoughts. And what's going to happen is, the way our brain always kind of works is you have monkey brain. So monkey brain is a theory that we will think about problems in the future that are coming up. This bill has to be paid. I have to go see that doctor for this, bump that I have on my skin. That's, and then you'll spiral into, yeah, that's probably cancer. And then, so you'll think about future problems, or you will go back and you will think about like your top 10 list of most embarrassing moments, going back to your teenage years. But what you will find is you'll never be able to just be present with yourself on that walk. So, what it's going to feel like if you have a mental health problem, and this is the simplest way that I can break it down. If you have a true mental health problem, when you take that walk, it will feel like your brain is screaming at you from three different directions. And that's the first 5 minutes. So, over the course of the next 40 minutes, you need to pick apart the thought that keeps coming up. So, why does that thing that you're thinking about throughout this always come back up? And this is a really good exercise for people that aren't good at meditation. I am not. I actually probably couldn't be worse at it. And for me, um, I just get out and I walk. If there is music in the headphones, it doesn't have words. But you need to see what problems continue to just kind of spin to the top, spin to the top. And those are the things usually that are eating at you when you're not in those situations. So that's kind of like that background chatter, or when your computer doesn't run right, so you hit Control Alt Delete, and it's like, bro, 90% of your CPU is in use. And you're like, I don't know why, there's nothing open. That's the same thing as your brain. Like, you're running all of these background problems that you're not facing. So, I love that this came up on our first podcast, because maybe this will be the first step for a lot of people. But the no headphone walk, and the reason you set a timer is, if you don't set that timer, you're going to walk about 10 minutes from your house and think that's pretty far, and you're probably going to walk straight back to your house, and you've accomplished nothing other than bringing a bunch of problems to the surface. So you're going to end up feeling worse. 45 minutes is going to kind of wear down your physical body and force you to kind of look at those problems. And you're going to find, after that one, each 45-minute walk after that, you don't have to do it every day. Just when, you're feeling that tension, that stress, or when you feel like your CPU is running in the background at 90%. I think that's what they call it. We'll get a computer nerd on here one day. Uh, so we're gonna figure out how to turn off all that background chatter and really face those problems, that are bugging us. But I think that's the easiest way to kind of look inward is quietly with your body moving, look at what problems are coming up.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that. I think it's a great idea. We do those resiliency hikes that Lindsay runs for us for Break the Stigma. And Dave with Stable Fitness that runs them. When we first started that project, he's like, "Oh yeah, I already do those. I call them walkie talkies." I said, "It's kind of the same concept though. It's like, have you ever gone for a walk or a run or a jog with somebody and ran for an hour and not said a word?" Now I get it if you're running a marathon and you're 4 hours in and you can't breathe. But if you're just going for a hike or you're going for a walk or we do it at the firehouse all the time, going for that walk around the engine house because you're tired of
Oh
sitting
yeah.
still. And the amount of conversations that are had, you start getting the blood flow, you start wearing yourself down, the thoughts start coming up, and you're willing to be vulnerable and open. Man, I've had some of the best conversations while moving. It's amazing what those endorphins of, getting yourself physically active will make you talk about. That's like gym talk. I mean, you're in the gym at the firehouse, or even if you go with a
Yeah.
buddy, man, some of the conversations you have while you're lifting weights or, doing something very aggressive. It's like, holy cow, I wouldn't have talked about this with you any other time.
Right.
But no, I think you've nailed it though with that walk is, those thoughts that keep reoccurring. Those are those minor ones, or they could be major. You never know. That are just that subconscious. I think I can't remember the exact numbers of what one of the neuroscience and psychologists put together of like how many unconscious thoughts you have in a day. Those ones that run by in your brain that you don't even know are there, but they're there. Like it's like somewhere of like 50,000 in a 24-hour period of like subconscious thoughts that are going on that you're not even aware of. But guess what?
Oh
They're
yeah.
there. So you can pick 5 or 6 out of those every now and then that are the major issues. You'd be amazed at how quickly, your mental health inclines and gets better. Um, and it could be as simple as like we were talking about, and like I said, it's not always about going to see, a professional or going to an inpatient facility or, going for the straitjacket padded room approach, but, knowing what's bothering you and taking it to just being aware of it. Being aware of it can take some of that weight off. And then it's trying to figure out what to do from there. Is this something I can have a conversation with a buddy, or is this a conversation with the family, or is this a conversation with a professional? So definitely a solid starting point. And I think
Yeah.
leading. Go ahead. Nope. Good.
I like starting there better than I have I have a reading list that when people tell me they're struggling or whatever, some good starting points and some great books. Books are great, but you can also get caught in a cycle where let's say you do look inwardly and you're like, oh man, I got a problem. So then you start buying books about your problems. You start buying neurodivergent books or ADHD as an adult, and you start listening to the podcast. What's going to end up happening is you're going to end up feeling worse about yourself because you're going to overwhelm yourself with you're going to read these books and find out like, oh man, I don't make lists and I don't do this and I never get anything done. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to like self-help yourself into feeling like a giant piece of shit. And
Yeah.
I experienced this. Uh, I took my walks to the next level, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to like self help podcasts while I walk. And dude, after I think it was like 21 days, I was like, I think this is making things worse because I just kept listening, and I listened to all the things that I wasn't doing to get better. And then I wasn't doing those things. I was just listening about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I could make a list and then it'll be better. And then, ADHD brain kicks in. It's like, psst, don't make the list. Just remember it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you never do. I
No, no,
tried,
but
yeah, I
I'd
tried
forget before I even
apps.
got back.
Yeah, I tried apps where it was like, okay, so what you need to do is you get an app basically, and you're going to type out the thing you're going to do. So it's like call the doctor, mow the lawn, vacuum. And they were like, you will get a dopamine hit by checking the box in that app. And, or whether you have like a streak going of completing these little chores for yourself. At which point you essentially just become the Tamagotchi from when we were kids, and the stupid little animal that you're trying to keep alive by checking all the boxes and remembering to feed is you. And it's not helpful. You're not going to continue to check the boxes for the rest of your life.
No, and I think that's I'm huge on routines and structure, but I think well, even talking about self, I've probably read. I'm looking at my bookcase right now, and I'm pretty sure at least 90% of the books above me right now are all self help books or someone that self helped themselves, and then they tell you how they did it. And there's some great ideas, but I think we put too much weight into what somebody else is telling you to do. Even the professionals, and even as we're sitting here on this podcast telling you all these wonderful ideas. I had a therapist out in Maryland that nailed it, and she basically told us like, I can give you 400 solutions to your problems, but if one of these solutions stresses you out more than the stress that you're feeling by trying to fix the stress, she goes, is it really a benefit? She's like, there's books on books that tell you how to fix your problems. But like in your case, like me, I can meditate. I used to not be able to, but like my first time when I was trying to teach myself how to meditate, like I got so much anxiety. Like I can't just sit still. I don't know how to sit still. I haven't sat still since I was like 4.
I still
So,
can't.
but it's like the finding those wonderful ways to, fix yourself and like making lists. Man, if I had a list, I would be so stressed out. I'd look at that list every 5 minutes. Even though I know it's on it, I'd still be looking at it. Like, oh, I got to do this. I know it's still there. I know I'd be checking that app every time I pick my phone up to see what I still had to do. And then I'd hit that wonderful ADHD paralysis and I'd get none of it done. And then I'd feel terrible because my list was just double the next day.
Yeah. Just all this talking about walking and meditating, I had to look it up. So I know we don't offer a lot of numbers on this podcast, but this one's pretty concrete. So to date in 2025, I walked 332 miles. I average about 6.4 a week and almost 30 a month. And that is my metric of mental health. And I can actually see in tracking things probably the months where I was not in a good place, because you will see the number of walks skyrocket. And for me, that's my meditation. And you're right. I think sometimes it's still, I'm walking with my wife and I'm barfing my problems on her, or she's telling me about some of her problems. And what do we love as first responders? We
Fixing
love,
things.
yeah, fixing things and helping other people. And a lot of times she doesn't want me to fix it, but here we are.
What I tell you is not the solution. What I tell you could be a starting point. What I tell you, or what we tell you, or what this podcast tells you, or what professional tells you, I could tell you to meditate, and it would not work for you. But in Robin's case, meditation is a sense of walking. For him, that is meditation. So it's finding, meditation doesn't have to be sitting on the ground with your legs crossed, listening to piano music and staring into darkness. It could be going for a walk. It's what you do to get yourself to that point of resilience, that point of feeling better. Um, so a lot of that is just making sure when you read a self-help book or you find your version of something is, tweak it. Not everybody's the same. Tweak it to what you need. Tweak it to those things that work for you. And I know we haven't gotten a ton of topics today about, those tips, skills, and tricks, but believe me, we'll have plenty of time in future episodes, and we'll be bringing on a bunch of guests that have different perspectives and are different, of different professions, of different ways to take care of yourself. And I think that's something as we move forward, kind of the basis of Break the Stigma is, we're just here as another resource, and just firemen and first responders alike, sitting here being vulnerable, having real conversation. And you might not get anything out of today's, but that doesn't mean you won't get anything out of tomorrow's or the next days or the next days. And you might hate everything about us, but guess what? If you listened, you're thinking about it now, and you're probably going to talk to somebody else about it. We're just going to talk to somebody else about it. And it becomes that domino effect and that, flood effect of getting more and more and snowballs just rolling down the hill. And that's kind of the point of it all.
I think a whole nother topic for another day is when we pack our lives with all of those mental health books and podcasts and stuff, we end up shooting a lot. And shooting is one of my favorite topics for mental health. I should be, once you get into inward inflection, And once you get into walking around inside your own brain, it's okay. So that's level one, it's like playing a video game. Um, you're going to start leveling up and things are going to start improve. And a lot of times, just simple changes in your life, they start to improve rapidly. And then you're going to hit a spot where all of a sudden you become hyper focused on your own mental health. And now you end up in this cycle of shoulding, of I should be running faster. I should be running further. I should be, getting this promotion at work. I should. And you will go straight back to level one because you will be so caught up in what you should be doing all the time. You become hyper fixated about it. I mean, it can happen too with your diet. I'm sure you remember this from your bodybuilding days. Not that they're over, but
Yeah,
yeah,
they're pretty much over. I've embraced dad life,
yeah.
bit dad bod.
But I think you remember, those diets leading up to the show, how fixated you became on food and numbers and what that looked like. And you and others would be the first ones to say by the time you walk on stage at that show, what you're feeding yourself or what you're not feeding yourself to be this picture of health. You couldn't be any less healthy the day you walked on stage.
No, not at all. That was the least healthy sport. I love it. I will do it again if I ever get a chance. But yeah, you look great. And it actually, you nailed the should have, because the shoulds, because as you're saying this, it brought back a thought in my head. Is like, I keep telling myself, man, I should be eating better. I should be losing weight. I should be better fit than I am now. I look back, I got those lovely memory hops on Facebook the other day of like one of my last shows and how good a shape I was in. And then I look at myself now. Not that I'm by means out of shape, but I am not the epitome of workout as I used to be. Um, and I catch myself, it's like, oh, I should eat better today. I should start my diet tomorrow. I should work out more. And then I don't do it. And then I feel worse because I told
Right.
myself I
Yeah.
should do something and then I failed. So it almost looks like it's almost like a failure in your brain because you sit there and tell yourself what you should be doing. But I look back and I'm those little shoulds of like, even if we're looking at the diet side of it, like me, I keep saying I should be dieting like I was. But, like today, I made better choices. I didn't go get fast food when I was out running my errands this morning. I came home and ate at home. Is it the should I was picturing in my head? But no, it was a win because I was still eating better. But if I were to just focus on the should, then yeah, I failed.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to frame a day is just kind of count your wins. Win number one would be as if you woke up feeling well. That's one win. Like I feel well enough to take on the day. And how many when you lay down in bed that night, how many wins did you get? And I think it's probably more than you thought. And I think a lot of times this kind of speaks to we've just lost the ability to have gratitude for things.
Hmm.
So we've lost that ability to, lay down at the end of the night and say, what happened today? What was I thankful for? And, sometimes a new problem can come up and sometimes we're thankful for problems. It gives us something to do or something to think about. But, I guess the biggest question is how are we ending our day and, getting set for tomorrow? So, a lot of people, oh, I had a bad day. Well, no, you had a bad 15 minutes this morning and you never let that thing go and it drove on to being a bad day. And, the more you look at it and the more you show gratitude is like you had one bad thing happen this morning, but there's probably a lot of other things throughout the day to be thankful for. And if that bad day, if you end up in your bed at the end of the night, whether it's the firehouse or at home, well, you made it, and tomorrow's a new day, and we can't let those bad days or that kind of stuff pile up.
I think you nailed it on the aspect. It's actually part of one of my presentations I do when I go out and speak. Is what do you see in the mirror at the end of the day? Are you proud of how your day was? And I've actually built off that initial part of that presentation now of, not about just being proud of what you see in the mirror, but the way I explain it to people is, when you wake up in the morning, you start your day, when you talk about your stress levels, you start the day out of zero usually, unless you had a real crappy night and you went to bed angry and you woke up and it just stemmed over into the new day. But most of the time, you start your day at a zero. You're on your way to work, somebody cuts you off. You're at a two. Do you hang on to that? You get to work, you're still at a 2. Then something happens at work, now you're at a 4. Then you drive home, you get cut off again, you're at a 6. By the end of the day, you're at a 10. You had a crappy day because you missed all of those little things in between those little bumps of stress. And it's as simple as, not as simple as it says it's simple, because it is, but it's not. Is when you hit that first thing that sends your stress levels high, let it go. Just move on.
Yeah.
Did you really control that situation, or was it just a mishap of your day? And now you're going to be, I'm just as guilty as the next. Somebody makes me mad in traffic, I'm going to be MFing them for the next 4 hours, and I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm going to be thinking about it the next day of like, oh, I hope I see that car again. I'm going to cut them off. But there we go. Now we're playing the game of, we're not letting it go, and we're missing the gratitude in between because all we're focused on is the negative.
Yeah, for sure. And usually I just say, that guy cut me off he's probably late for work and he's been late for work 10 times and his stress is about to hit 10 before 9 a.m.
Yeah. Or
So,
he was at a 10 before he even left. Um, No, I think that's a whole topic in itself when I talk about looking at the mirror at the end of the day, and the how much you can control in your life. I think most of the things we've talked about today could be hour-long topics in themselves. No, but we're rolling up on the end of this episode here, and the awesome topics for today. I have a whole list of topics in front of me here, and I think we touched about 3 of them. There's about 20, but that's the whole point of
yeah.
mental health and just overall wellness of first responders and human beings in itself. It's a never ending conversation, and we don't have all the answers. I can say that, but we'll definitely be willing to talk about them. And I think moving through, like I said, with our following podcast from here on out, it'll be nothing but this. It'll be unscripted, just conversation. Whatever comes up, comes up. We'll bring in different experts from all over, with different aspects of whether it be mental health, mental wellness, physical health, physical wellness, nutrition. I mean, they all go hand in hand. We're definitely going to bring in some interesting people to talk about different topics. So I challenge everyone that listens to this first one, um, stick with us. Whether you got anything out of today or not, I think this will be a turning point for a lot of things. I think it's going to open some conversation even in your own mind, or it might open a conversation that helps somebody else out that doesn't listen to us. But I think this is a good start, and I think we're at a solid stopping point. And I do. Anybody listening, I challenge you, come to the next one, listen to the next one. I also challenge you, as we say things, reach out on our socials. Break the Stigma Inc. We're on Instagram, Facebook. You can hit us with an email, break the stigma inc at Gmail. Websites, breakthestigmainc.com. Hit us on all those platforms. Tell us, what are some topics that we didn't touch? What are some topics you'd want us to touch? Or what did we say that might have sounded really stupid? And tell us why. This is my favorite part of my presentations, is when I start talking and somebody calls me out, because those are usually when you're like, oh, I learned something new, or somebody has a different perspective. So we want that feedback. We want people to give us the feedback on what we're talking about, and what we can do in the future to help people more often. I want to thank Nick for being vulnerable today, sharing some of his insight on his own struggles and his own ideas and his own topics. I think it was a very open conversation, and I do appreciate you being with us and being vulnerable.
Yeah. This is something I care about. It's something that I've seen throughout my fire service career, and I've seen it all the way to the not myself, but some guys around me. I've seen it all the way to the end, and I've seen what that looks like, and I don't want that. And if it's preventable or if it's something that we could have talked about, because in both those cases I had no idea, and and then now they're gone and we definitely can't fix it now. So getting ahead of that and just taking care of the people that I work with. I always tell people like this job is hard enough just running the calls, and it's 10 times harder with all this other stuff that we bring upon ourselves in the background. So, if this is the last time you listen to this podcast, I'll give you my piece of advice. When it comes to the firehouse, take care of those 3 to 5 people that you work with. Make little sacrifices for each one of them every time you go to work. And if you can build a crew or a shift to take care of each other like that, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of work ahead of you taking care of four other people, but you'll have four other people taking care of you. And it makes the firehouse life a lot easier.
No, I think that's the biggest thing is whether you take something out of this today for yourself or you take it out of today to help someone else. At the end of the day, it's all about helping each other. I always get asked all the time, peer sport training. How do I become a peer sporter? How do I do this? How do I get educated? We're all educated in peer sport. My entire career has been consistent of
Right.
fixing other people's problems and listening to other people's problems at the firehouse. But I love it. I think that's where it should be. Just like you said, if you got a crew of five and everybody's taking care of each other, there's your support system. You've got your support system outside of work. Now you got your support system inside of work. So, and as we, like the name of the show, the kitchen table, don't end at the kitchen table. If you're on duty for 24, 48, whatever it is, whether you're sitting at the kitchen table in the truck, cleaning the bay, whatever it is, that's take care of each other, talk about stuff, bully each other, bully with positivity. You
Yeah, yeah.
didn't
I
even
think
get
we
into your
could.
bully of positivity today.
Yeah, we're gonna cover it. We're gonna cover it one day. There's a lot. I think I can't believe it's been an hour. I think we could probably do four easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope to get. I hope I get around to explaining the idea of being a bully with positivity and who you have to be um, as a person to take on that role.
Yeah. So, on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us at the kitchen table. We had a great conversation today. All I ask is please push your chair in. Don't leave your cup in the sink for the new guy. Go ahead and wash that guy now. But please join us again. Um, Bring us with topics. Check out our socials, Break the Stigma Inc., or our website, www.breakthestigmainc.com. Um, Reach out if you need anything. Check out our resources. Check out all the things we're doing. We've always got events coming up. We try to stay pretty active. So please, please, please share, listen, and be a better person.
See you guys.